In 1946, the Morgan v. Virginia case made its way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that segregation interstate buses was illegal. In 1960, the Supreme Court ruled that segregation interstate bus terminals was illegal as well in Boynton v. Virginia. However, these rulings were quickly thrown out of the window in the Deep South. The Congress of Racial Equality wanted to challenge these rulings and force the nation to enforce their own laws. On May 14, 1961, an interracial group of members from the Congress of Racial Equality left D.C. in a Greyhound. The plan was to ride the bus to New Orleans, along the way sitting with members of the opposite race and using white restrooms. The group set off in high spirits. However, upon reaching Rock Hill, South Carolina, they were met with violence. After entering a whites-only waiting area, John Lewis, another black rider, and a white rider were beaten. The next day, the riders arrived in Atlanta, Georgia, and some riders split off into a Trailsway bus. In Atlanta, they were met by a crowd of supporters. They were also met by Martin Luther King. King advised them to stop the Freedom Rides before more people were hurt. The 13 riders, however, had other ideas and continued on. The next day, the Greyhound bus arrived in Anniston, Alabama. They were met by a mob of over 100 people. The mob bombed the bus. Luckily, everyone escaped the burning bus. However, upon escaping, they were brutally beaten by the waiting mob. A day later, the Trailsway bus drove into Birmingham, Alabama. They were greeted with yet another mob brandishing metal pipes. Upon being asked if he knew about the potential danger the Freedom Riders faced, Bull Connor stated that he knew. However, he did not station police officers in the area because it was Mother's Day. After this violence, the Congress of Racial Equality was unable to find any willing bus drivers. The group ditched the Freedom Rides. However, they had already garnered international media attention. Diane Nash stepped up and found 10 student nonviolent coordinating committee members to continue the Freedom Rides. Meanwhile, Robert Kennedy negotiated with Governor Patterson and bus companies to secure a driver and state protection for the new riders. The rides resumed on May 20th. The new riders started by driving out of Birmingham with a police escort, but that didn't last long. The police left the bus alone right before it arrived in Montgomery, leaving the riders vulnerable to attacks. And sure enough, riders were attacked with clubs in Montgomery. The following night, Martin Luther King led a service in Montgomery. Thousands of people showed in support of the Freedom Rides. But the supporters weren't the only ones there. A white mob appeared outside the church, forcing Dr. King to call Robert Kennedy for help. Kennedy deployed federal marshals to disperse the mob. Governor Patterson of Alabama imposed martial law and called in the state police as well as the National Guard. Yet, on May 24th, another group of Freedom Riders left Montgomery heading to Jackson, Mississippi. There, black riders were arrested for using whites-only facilities. However, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People appealed to the Supreme Court, who released the Freedom Riders. That wasn't all. The Freedom Rides continued the whole summer of 1961. Hundreds were wounded and jailed, but in the end, it was worth it. The Freedom Riders forced the government to enforce their rulings and more. By 1963, airports were desegregated as well. It was a battle well fought.